Hi, everyone. My name's Debbie. I'm with Festivals and Events Ontario, and we are welcoming Thomas Cumberbatch from Godspeed. Thank you, Thomas, for joining us and sharing your insight and knowledge of branding. You're a branding expert, right? Branding marketing expert.
Yeah, so Godspeed is a growth strategy and creative firm, and one of the tools that we use to help grow
I came in the exit. I never even checked the other.
Keep going, Thomas. Sorry.
No problem, no problem. So yeah, we are a growth strategy and creative firm, and one of the major tools, one of the major weapons that we wield is the idea of branding. And we believe that a brand has nothing to do with logos or colors, but it's really every aspect of who you are, your organization. But ultimately, it really is the reflection of your soul. And that's what we're really all about at Godspeed, is helping to unearth and illuminate the souls of individuals and brands who are leaving a legacy in their communities.
Lovely. So hence the name Godspeed with a Z, right?
Gotta be different. You gotta throw a little zag in there.
There you go, right? Stand out a bit.
That's
so wonderful. So you were going to talk to us today about pivoting in this time of challenge in our world. I mean, festivals are really challenged right now, and this might be a good time for us to really understand how we can brand and market ourselves in a way that keeps us alive, or moving forward, how we can resurrect our name, because it does sometimes feel like a resurrection as we move forward and post this time that we're going through.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to chatting about all these things today.
Okay, floor is yours.
Awesome. So one of the things that we have to remember as people is that although we're in a pandemic, I explained to a group of people the other day I said, the pandemic, although it affects all of us, it's something that is on the perimeter of our purpose. Our purpose is not dependent on whether or not there's a pandemic or not. Our purpose is something that we are all born with. And every business and every organization is also born with a purpose. You started your festivals on purpose. You started your events on purpose. And what we need to do is, and that's really the title of today, I believe, is really anchoring on purpose in the midst of a pandemic. We need to anchor on our purpose. And we forget that in business because, and I say business because there's a strong business aspect to a festival or to events. You have to deal with money, you have to deal with people, you have to deal with ledgers, you have to deal with profit margins, you have to deal with expenses, you have to deal with, a process and operations and all these things. But what we believe foundationally at Godspeed is that brands are individuals and not institutions. It means that, we've been taught that businesses are all about ledgers and profit margins, but what business is really about is people. And I think that that's what we forget as we're running our festivals, as we're running our events. We forget that we did this for people in the first place. And although the festival, the way that we meet and that way that we gather has changed, the fact that we do this for people hasn't. And what we need to do is reconnect with people. It's giving us an opportunity to go, what do people want? What were people attracted to in the first place when they used to sign up and come to register for our festivals and come to our festivals or events? What is it about these people? And I think what we need to do in this time is really spend some time to understand what our value is to our people, to be intentional and say, what are the things that the people love about us, and how can we continue to deliver to our people without delivering in the same container, in the same way? Because the physical event is like a container, but it's not the purpose. It's just a vehicle for delivering something deeper than the actual venue. How do we do that? And I think that that's really important. And at Godspeed, we always say, and what we call it is, we say that deep purpose is the soul. And the soul allows you to get through really tough times. I, as a Black man, I also think about my people and what my people have gone through throughout the ages. We're soulful people, and that's why we're here today, despite all the things that happen. And every human being and every race, every creed, every tongue has hardships, and we actually get through those hardships because of our soul, because we're able to persevere. And I think that what we need to do, whether you're a festival or you're a, you're a sport federation, or you're a restaurant, like, what is the soul? And that's really what I want to talk about today.
How do you find your soul? Like in your business?
It's a great question. It's one of those things where it's such a profound discovery that you actually have to really carve out the time necessary, because it's so deep, and it will always come back to who the people who lead the business or the brand are. So it's something that becomes very personal at some point. I mean, we've worked with so many organizations over the years, and you would look at their logos on our website, or you'd see the work that we do, and you'd think that this was like a business thing we did. I can't tell you how many boxes of tissues we keep around, during discovery, because when people start to get to the point where I'm saying, look, what's your purpose? And they're saying, our purpose is to sell widgets and doodads. I'll say, no. You sell widgets and doodads, but why do you sell widgets and doodads? Well, because, it's important for this company to grow and make money. And I say, no, that's not why. By the time they get to the real answer, they're in tears because they realize this is such a deep personal exploration. So the first thing I would say is that you need to set time, intentional time aside, to really think about why you're doing what you do, and how the things that you do impact the people who attend your events or who buy from your business, how it actually pushes them forward in life, how it pushes the needle in solving a problem, how it platforms people of purpose. So the first thing you need to do is set time aside and ask yourself a few very important questions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little time today, and I'm glad you asked that question first. I'm going to walk you through a little bit. I'm going to walk you through the thinking of kind of beginning the process of really uncovering your soul. At Godspeed, we start this process off with a founding story. We say, how did this all begin? Before you can start to deep dive into philosophies and metrics and all those things, you have to jog back, rewind, and go, how did this actually start? You might notice that what you're doing today as an adult started when you were 10 years old. And the first thing I want you to do is ask yourself this question. How did this festival start? How did this event start? How did my personal initiative start? How did this organization start? And I want you to start at the very beginning. Go back as far as you can remember and think about the very first time you even thought that this could be a possibility. There's somebody on our team, his name is Joe. He's an account manager here. And he said to me, he said, you know what, Thomas? I realized, because I thought about us working together at Godspeed, and he goes, this weekend, I was pondering how this all started, and I realized that every single job that I had from my first job at 12 years old led to what I'm doing today. The founding story actually started 30 years, 28 years, ago for Joe. And when you are uncovering purpose, you have to begin with the purpose story at the beginning of the story, because that's really where purpose starts. It starts at the beginning. Purpose is bigger than just what you're doing today. Purpose comes from a deep place, a place that we were not cognizant was writing a story. We are living in a story. Everybody is living in a story. So the first question, like I said, what's the founding story? I want you to be able to answer that for yourself. The next thing that I want you to do is think about your big dream. It's funny, as adults, the older we get, is the more that our constructs and that our systems tell us that it's not time to dream. Dreaming was for kids. Listen, I dream all day. And I'll never stop that from happening, because not only do I need to do that for my own personal health and my own personal life's trajectory, but I need to also do that for the people that I work with and the people that I work for. You know, when a client comes in, I have to be able to dream for that person and with that person. Because if we're not dreaming, then we're not going to be able to design a better future. If it doesn't exist now, you have to see it before it exists. So this next piece I ask is, you need to ask yourself the question, what is my big dream? Other people call it a vision. At Godspeed, we call it the big dream. What is your big dream? What at the end of the day are you trying to achieve with your festival, with your event? What is the greatest hope? You need to identify that, because your soul will give you the answer. That's not a cerebral thing. That's not just cognitive. That is something that comes from your belly. And it's very important to start there. After you acknowledge how I got here, then you need to say to yourself, what do I want to achieve at the end of the day? At Godspeed, every one of our vision statements has something that we call a transformative trajectory. A trajectory is like the smoke that follows a plane. It's like the pattern that a shooting star leaves. It's the trajectory. It's like where it's going. Well, we believe that every big dream has a transformative trajectory. It needs to take you from here to here. If your dream doesn't take you from where you are today to somewhere higher tomorrow, then it's not a vision. It's just a thing that you do. It's not a big dream. This is what a big dream looks like. You need to identify what the big dream is. Because I can tell you this, when you have the ability to open your mind large enough and wide enough to identify what the big dream is, it actually releases creativity. And guess what you need in the midst of a pandemic? Creativity. The last piece I'm going to run you through here is, well, how do you actually achieve your big dream? So we have this big dream, but how do we get there every day? And that daily how is what we call the mission. It's your mission. What do you have to do on a daily basis to achieve that big dream? Your big dream, you may never even be able to achieve it in a lifetime. And it sounds like a dismal statement. It sounds sad, but no, big enough that'll keep you chasing for the duration of your involvement in this event or festival or any other aspect of your life. You need something that will keep you alive. People die when they stop working. You know, don't move it, you lose it. You know, so what we need to identify here is, how are we going to get there? Every day, what do we have to do? I'm going to give you an example of what those are for Godspeed. At Godspeed, our big dream is a love affair between brands and communities. At the end of the day, what do we want to see? Brands and communities come together. That's why we choose to work with purpose-driven brands. How do we get there? How are we building that every day? What we do at the end of the day, every day, is we need to transform the anatomy of business from institution to individual. We know that every business, every festival, every event has an anatomy, it has a construct. But we want to make sure that that construct is not institutional. We want to make sure that it is personal, it is soulful. So we, every day, what we do with companies, what we do with brands, is we transform their business anatomy from this institution to this soulful individual. And if we do that, then brands and communities will end up in a love affair. That's how that story, that narrative works. So that's where I want you all to start. Because I'll tell you this much. You might have thought that you're going to come on the call today, and I'm going to tell you exactly how to make your events the way they were before pandemic, during a pandemic. That's not what we're talking about today. That's not my expertise. You're the experts in that. But what I can direct you to is you finding the answer. And it starts by you being able to address those three things. How everything starts, your big dream, and how you're going to get there every day. That's very important. As you acknowledge those things, and you're able to pinpoint those things, you will start the answers, the creativity, the resolve, the pivoting, all of that stuff is going to start to emanate. It'll start to download, and you'll emanate that to your people, and your people will give you more ideas. And that's how all of the people who have pivoted and are doing really well in the face of the pandemic are staying in business. That's how they're creating new experiences. So start there.
Can I ask you a question? What if, because it sounds a lot like once you find those three key elements, it does sound like a vision and mission statement that you've got. I mean, you're going to have to take that and probably write it into that. What if you're working for someone, a municipality, or you've inherited, or you've come on as the event producer for someone else's event? How would you translate take their mission and vision statement and translate it into you? Would you be able to, I guess the question I'm asking is, how do you take somebody else's mission statement and make it yours?
That's a great question. It's a fantastic question. I'll tell you this, and you all might not like my answer, but you should not be working with anyone that you don't share a mission or vision statement with in the first place. When we walk into a job or we take on an initiative, what we need to know for ourselves is our own personal mission and vision, so that we can align with that organization. Where most problems happen from a work perspective with people in their jobs, or in terms of the happiness that they have at work, it usually stems from exactly that problem: a misalignment between their vision and mission and the vision and mission of the company they're working for. I can tell you that everybody at Godspeed has the same mission and vision, and I wouldn't allow anybody in here without them having that mission and vision as well, because then you have cultural issues. Now, if you are in a job that you really love, say for instance, you really love the position that you have, you love your organization, and the mission and vision statement itself, the way it's written, may be convoluted, like most companies. We do this funny thing where when we are doing discovery with clients, I'll say, okay, everybody, like no one talk to each other, and it'll be like a C-suite or it'll be a management team. I'll say, everybody, write down the mission and vision statement. So that immediately I know when it's disjointed, because people start to laugh and giggle. And then you realize that everybody has something different on the piece of paper. Sometimes organizations have mission statements that are actually the wrong ones, or vision statements that are the wrong ones. I think what you need to do is, if you love your organization and you align with the principles of the organization, what you need to do is challenge your leaders to be more clear on those things. And what that will do is, once your organization has more clarity and more alignment, then naturally what you're going to do is connect more intimately. Sometimes it literally is just a gathering. Gather your people and say, what does this mission statement actually mean to us? Even just being able to have that type of conversation, so much can come out of it. I've led discussions like that where the question is so simple, or I'm saying, look, this is your mission statement. You told us that you do not want to move away from it because it's how it's been and it's not going to change. Tell us what that means. Instead of me asking one person, we pull a group together and we go, what does it mean to you? What does it mean to you? What does it mean to you? And then you can unpack that mission statement. So I know that's kind of a roundabout answer, but the first thing is, make sure that you know your own mission and vision statement so that you can align with the right work. And then if you're in a job that you love, but you're not quite sure about how the mission statement and vision statement align with who you are, ask your leaders, the business leaders, or organizational leaders, for clarity, So
are you saying that as we walk into a job, or in a job that we already have, that each of us may want to consider having a life mission statement and a life vision statement? Okay.
100%. Why? Because, like we said, brands are individuals and not institutions. We are individuals, and if a brand should have a mission statement, then so should we. It's very important to understand that. And I think it's at the nucleus of human existence, is purpose. And I think that the number one problem that we as a human race have is we can't answer the fundamental question, who am I? People with big positions, with big responsibilities and leadership over many, can't answer that question. And I know that because some of those people have been my clients. And I go, how in the world did you get here without really being able to answer that? And I'm going, wow. And when they find that, a lot of times it validates all the work they do, but just being able to acknowledge it is very important. Very important.
Interesting. Okay, thank you. Thank you. So I guess that answers this question. Well, I have another, no, before I go to the next question that I was going to ask, when you hire people or when you bring staff on, do you engage them in the mission statement? Because I don't know, I know when I was younger, I wouldn't even look at a mission statement for somebody else. It just sounded like a good place to work sometimes.
Right. Well, you know what? I am going to be very honest and transparent, is that we always start with these types of conversations. Do I always start our, an interview with, here's our mission statement, here's our vision statement? No. Should I? Yes. Am I a barber with a bad haircut? Yes, folks. Yes. 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 But one thing I can tell you is that.
Hence the hat.
There you go. You can't see what's underneath here. I can't let you see it. But the truth is that our mission and vision is so deeply ingrained into who we are, everything that we say, that automatically, one of our team members is on the call right now, who Mark, before he came into Godspeed, he understood exactly what we were about. Now, do they hear the mission statement early? 100%. It's on our website. It's in a lot of our collateral. It's something that we talk about all the time. But it's very important to address it very boldly. I'll tell you, we create something, and I have one here called a soul guide. And this is kind of the foundation of what we create at Godspeed. And what this is, so this one is for the Olympic diving team, for the Olympic Diving Federation. Their entire ethos as a company is in this book. And pun intended, they use it as a platform for their business, for their organization. Well, what's very interesting here is that you're looking at this and going, oh, that's sports, and it's a little different than us. No, it's not. They are an event organization. That's really what they do. They run events. They run sporting events, and they give the athletes the things they need, the coaches and the things that they need in order to make sure that those events are as successful as possible for Canadian divers. They use this for everything that they do. When they have meetings internally, they refer back to the Soul Guide. When they're doing their marketing, they refer to Soul Guide. We built a Soul Guide for Coble Commercial Real Estate. They're a local commercial real estate firm here, and they actually give these to people when they're hiring them in the process. We did an interview with one of their team members because we work with them on all of their media, and we are interviewing them to kind of, basically introduce them to the Coble community as a new employee. And I asked the gentleman, I said, what was it about Coble that made you want to work there? He said, they gave me the Soul Guide, and to see how their mission and their vision and their values, what that does in commercial real estate, I wanted to be a part of it. And I was like, wow. So that becomes something now that we tell our clients is make sure that when you're hiring people, that you use the principles from this to introduce them to the organization, because it's very important.
So a lot of our events are one-man, two-man shops, right? And then they have dozens and dozens of volunteers, right? Everybody on here knows that. They're either inherited an event or are volunteering for that event. So I'm just wondering, how do you encourage them? Like, what if it's loose?
Well, that's a great question as well. I think that having volunteers in a two-man shop, two-person shop is extreme. Like that is a perfect case for having a strong mission and vision. Anybody who has volunteers or volunteer teams, your purpose needs to be even more clear, because you're not paying these people. They're giving you their time. And a lot of times, in situations where you have volunteers, a lot of times the volunteers, not all the volunteers are great. They're not all, supporting the cause, so to speak, sometimes. And it's because maybe some of them need to be paid and they think that they should be volunteers and they shouldn't. But I think that the ones that are really, really awesome are ones that really believe in what they're doing. Like, for me to give my time away, I need to understand why I'm doing that. I got, even for a meeting today, and it's not me being an egomaniac, because anybody knows me knows I'm not. Even when someone wants to have a meeting with me, I need to understand why I'm going to take that time and have a meeting with you. Because I have 2 sons and a beautiful wife that I take time away from to have a meeting with whoever it is. So I want to make sure that my time is valued, and I'm going to be able to deliver value. This to me is a great use of my time. I get to chat with great folks, about purpose and meaning. I love that. That's in alignment with my personal mission, as well. So I think that, if you want to really engage your volunteers, even if you're a small shop, you're a 2-person shop, if you can focus on the fundamentals of your purpose, then you will actually be able to rally a herd of loyal ambassadors. And I think that that's what events and festivals actually need right now, is they need to look at their ambassadorship. Ambassadorship could be comprised of your leadership team, employees, volunteers, and also the attendees. One of the greatest ways to anchor on purpose right now is have a call like this with some of the people who normally come to your festivals. Tell them, I don't know what to do during this pandemic. I want to hear from you for how you would love this festival to engage you. You'd be shocked to see who will show up and tell you exactly how to do it. If it weren't for something like that, Tesla wouldn't exist today. Because when Elon Musk was having problems, engineering problems, guess what he'd do? He'd go to a community of engineers who would literally solve the problems for him and bring back solutions to Tesla. Tesla would literally had like an ambassador crew helping them figure out issues so that they could fulfill their mission, which is like the world's transition to sustainable energy. It has nothing to do with a car. It's sustaining or catalyzing or increasing the idea of us. It's a battery company. So they want us to use, renewable and sustainable energy. My whole point is, when you can engage your people with purpose and clarity in that purpose, you'll be shocked to see that everything that you need is actually within the community you've developed, even if it's 2 people.
And how much time would you put? You said earlier about putting time aside. I mean, I know a mission statement's is not easy to create. What is your experience about the time and resources, like questions that they need to ask?
Yeah, you know what? I think it always starts with one day. Take a day off. Go for a long drive. Go somewhere and stop and just think for a day. Ask yourself these questions. Grab a book and write down all of the steps that led to your story. I watched this awesome documentary of this guy who was like a music industry exec. He's probably in his 80s now. His name is Clarence Avant. And his story is fantastic. He comes from a place called Summit. It's just in the deep South in the United States, and he was poor as could be. And he ended up becoming a major music exec and an influencer to so many of the biggest names, including people like Michael Jackson. Like, he was behind Michael Jackson's Bad tour and all this stuff. Well, he said in the documentary, there are a few people that come into your life that move you to the next phase. I sat down I paused the documentary, and I thought to myself, I said, wow, I couldn't tell you right now on the spot who those people are, but I should be able to. So I stopped watching the documentary. This was on Saturday night, and I took 15 minutes to think about who those people were. And today I can actually tell you who they are. Like, I can rifle those off. The first one was my cousin Dwayne, who at 13 years old dragged me to a football field and said, "You're gonna play football." And I'm like, but wait, I'm 13, my parents aren't with me. Next thing you know, the coaches are putting equipment on me and putting a helmet on me, telling me, "Son, get out there and hit that guy." And my parents don't even know I'm playing football. Times have changed. That would never happen today. The next person, that person came in high school. He was my high school football coach, once again, who introduced me to somebody named Larry Legault at Bishop's University. They gave me a scholarship. I went to university. After university, I ended up getting, which is kind of how Godspeed started. I was approached by Canada Post. Their director of social media in 2010 reached out to me. They gave me a test to write. They said that I scored higher than anybody on the test and that they would offer me a position as a manager at Canada Post. I was managing a digital community that engaged 500,000 Canadians. I created labor relations reports in the morning and evening. And basically during the strike in 2010, 11, and 12 with Cup W, I was giving the labor relations board the information they needed to have meaningful conversations at the table. So Brian Beeler was the third person. And he told me one day, he said, you need to stop doing work here. And I said, why? Am I doing a bad job? He said, no, quite the opposite. I said, what is it? He goes, your ideas are too big for this place. You need to do this on your own. And guess what I did? Exactly that. I left Canada Post and started Godspeed. The next thing that happens is the company starts growing and I can't operate Godspeed out of my basement anymore. A good friend of mine named Dave Harder said to me, Thomas, I have a collaborative space. I know that you need to move out. You don't have the money. So I'm going to let you stay here for as long as you need, and I'm not going to charge you any money. What that did, it allowed me to bring like higher end clients into a place of business. And I was able to grow my business to a point where I had enough money then to move into my first space, which is at the corner of Somerset and Bay in Ottawa in 2016. I moved into that space and I did not have the money to fit it up, but the landlord put all the money up. People don't do that in the commercial world. You rent the space and you fit it up. He put up all the money, fit up my space, took care of me, didn't raise my rent. Normally what they'll do is even if they do that, they'll basically amortize their investment over the span of your rent. And he didn't do that. That's where Godspeed really started to grow. And then we moved into this 6,000 square foot space because a man named Paul Bregman, who's a mentor of mine, who owns the space, said, you know what, I'm gonna find a way to get you into the space because your business has outgrown where you're at. These are catalyzers in my story. These are people who have taken me to the next level. And guess what? Acknowledging that makes me want to do that for someone else. Very important to take the time, take a day just to think about that. I thought about those 5 people in 15 minutes in the middle of me watching a documentary at midnight on Saturday. But you need to take the time to think, to really think. When things are flying all over the place, when you're worrying about the pandemic, guess what you're not going to do? Is you're not going to be innovative. You really need to take that time. Take a day. Start with a day.
That's amazing. Thank you, Thomas. Is there anything else you want to share? Because I'd like to open the floor up for Q&A if you don't have, I'm sure you have a lot more to say, but we do want to open up.
You know I'm a blabbermouth.
I know, the future conversations I've had with you is great. So
yeah, I'd like to, I'll share one thing, because
okay.
I know some of you are wondering, like, how do we actually operate or pivot? One thing, and it comes from our conversation on Friday. There are a few things. You need to shift your thinking first. So automatically human beings almost always start by thinking about tactics. What am I going to do? But every action has to come from a set of principles that make that action possible. And that's where we are always supposed to start, is from a place of strategy and not tactics. Tactics come out of strategy. So you need to think strategically. Thinking is very important, and you need to shift the thinking. And here are some areas here are 2 areas where you need to shift your thinking right away. You need to first off let go of convention. I think COVID has done that for all of us. It's removed convention away. So just let go of convention. Stop thinking about your old festival. Stop thinking about your old event. Last year's event or festival is not today's reality. So stop it. Let go of convention. Open up your mind and start to think about, okay, what do I have? And that's why I always say, and why I started this all off with the idea of purpose. A big dream, a founding story, a mission, some solid pillars. You have to start there so that you can go, okay, if I don't have a venue, and I don't have convention. What do I really have? And eventually, these quote unquote confines, and I put the quotations up because I actually think that in a lot of our cases, COVID is forcing us to become more creative. I think then you can say, okay, if this isn't a regular event, what is it? And that's one of the most beautiful questions to ask yourself. I think if you are running festivals or events, if you start off by saying, okay, my festival is no longer a gathering of 15,000 people or 20,000 people or 50,000 people over 3 days, what is it? That's a beautiful place to start. So that's where you need to shift your thinking in one end. And the next part is that what some people, you never hear people say, and I can't understand why we don't hear this in talks and in panels and whatnot. This is actually a time to start to have fun. And what that means is you have the permission to do something different. Apple's whole kind of slogan and their whole kind of positioning is think different. Now we have to think different. Guess what? That's actually fun with the right mentality. I opened up a 6,000 square foot collaborative space for creatives days before pandemic hit. No one wants to sit beside anybody when someone tells you that the sky is falling. I'm sitting in here going, I've basically just spent, my life savings on this place, building this place. What in the world am I gonna do? For a brief moment, I panicked like hell. For another moment, I panicked like hell. And then I said, no, you know what, T? You're a creative cat. What are you going to turn this place into? My football coach in university used to say to us all the time, worry about what you can control. So what can I control? I have the space. That's what I can control. What am I going to do with it? What I did is I rearranged the whole place. And I said, I'm going to start communicating with artists and letting them know that as soon as lockdown finishes, I've got a place for them to come and create art. I removed the collaborative workspace part of the space. We call it the G Collective. I removed that piece and just added more sets and art. So my space is full of sets. They're all kind of walls with sets. I added more of these sets. And guess what? This part of my business pays the rent in the middle of a pandemic. The Ottawa Business Journal came here on Saturday to do like a little feature on our space. And I said, why do you want to do this? They said, because you grew a business in a pandemic. But I asked myself, basically, what can I do with what I have? And that question is very important. So what I would advise everybody on this call to do is shift your thinking. Allow yourself to think differently and have fun doing it. That's where the ideas come from. When you're panicked and worried, the ideas can't come. They come when you let go of convention and you have fun doing that.
Thank you. That's great. That's inspiring. All right, I'd like to open the floor up to any questions, concerns, creativity, ideas. Floor's yours. Hi, Dave.
Hey, I'll jump in, Deb. Thanks very much for that, Thomas. And a couple of things I pulled out of that right away, and I'm glad to hear them, especially in the events world, is number one, a lot of times we think of ourselves as different because we run festivals and events. But at the core of everything we do, we're a business. And if you keep those principles front and center, you're on a good footing to succeed. The other thing, when you were talking about strategy, and I ran a corporation where there was a very minimal staff and a large volunteer base with many committees and everything. And it was really hard to focus them all in onto that mission and vision of what we do and how we do it. And I really ended up getting a whiteboard in the office with 4 words on the top, and everything we did went through there. And the 4 words were simply analyze, strategize, execute, and celebrate. And so often what I was finding is people weren't moving through those processes. You get a lot of boards of directors or you get committees together and they're constantly thinking, what if, when in fact they've got a job to do down the road, that they've got to move through these processes, and keeping people engaged and moving through these processes is the key to success.
That's so wise. You know what, Dave? I am going to carbon copy everything you just said, share that with a bunch of people, and tell them that I came up with it.
Big G and little g.
I love it. That's, you know what? That's so powerful, and it's so strong. I think that, you know, simplicity is a huge pillar in developing clarity. You know, I've seen organizations go through strat planning for the purpose of clarity, and the strat plan is 80 pages. Like, it's just because it's long doesn't mean it's really great. And that's why all of the mission and vision statements we come up with for our clients at Godspeed, they're all short. They're short enough that anybody can remember. A love affair between brands and communities. That's our vision statement. Transforming the anatomy of business. That's our mission statement. You know, they're simple because, you know, at the end of the day, even if, like, no paragraph, doesn't matter how long it is, can contain all the things you need to do to execute that vision or mission. So what you need is a big idea. David Ogilvy, the father of modern advertising, Ogilvy is one of the largest advertising firms in the world. He said he doubts that in 99 companies, in 99 advertising campaigns, even one has a big idea. A lot of them don't. They're just saying, buy my car, buy my car, buy my car. What's the big idea? You had 4 of those that act as a big idea. Now that's powerful. And we all need to be able to identify them. Look, you were able to communicate them to us very clearly. How many of us on the call can communicate the foundational principles, that big idea, that mission, that vision, you know, of our festival or our event that way? For those who can, fantastic. That's what you need in order to grow. For those who can't, here's an opportunity for you to take that day that I said you should take and really deep dive into what's important, you know? So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, one last question I have for now anyway. How often should organizations be checking their mission and vision? Because unless your vision or your mission has changed, and unless your overall business has really changed, I don't see how your strategies, you know, they may vary here and there, but your core strategies, I think, should pretty well be the same all the time. Your objectives on how you get there might be different, and
right,
you know, especially with these circumstances and stuff like that. But at the core value of a good vision and a good mission, and I always look at it as a vision of what you aspire to, and the mission is how you're going to get there.
That's
and
right.
Your strat plan has all the goals and objectives to get there. But you know, some people want to constantly dicker and change in there. But if you set out and have a really good plan, you just have to keep working the plan, live the plan, work the plan, right?
I love it. I love it, Dave. Preach. You know, at the end of the day, I think that we are supposed to be reviewing our mission and vision every single day. Every single day. And what I mean by that is, it's kind of like you putting the 4 things on the wall. But when it comes to going through like deep changes in the statements, well, if you're having to do that, it's because it was wrong in the first place. I always, every single company that we've worked with over the last 10 years, none of them have changed their mission or vision statements. None of them. You know why? We went through a process, a deep process, to really identify what it is at the core, the soul. That's why we call our system the soul branding system. These words, to some people in business, you know, they're like, look at this big hippie. You know, like, what are you talking about, soul? I'm talking about money. I'm talking about numbers. Well, you know what? You can't get away from the fact that you're human. It doesn't matter how many businesses you start. Businesses don't run themselves. They're run by people. So we actually have to start at the level of the human, of the individual. So I think that when you can get there from the beginning, you should not be changing your vision statement unless your entire business changes, unless your target audience changes and your product changes. Well, that's different. That's a new business. You know, that's what I'd call that. It's a new business. You might keep the name, but it's a new business. But if we're still doing this, growth strategy and creative, for the next 10 years, I can't think of any time that our mission and vision would ever change, because it'll take me a lifetime. It'll take this company a lifetime to actually achieve all those things. And that's how.
if you're doing different things, the other, I worked in television for a lot of years, and the analogy I use with that is, if you put something through the lens, if it's a new venture or something new you're trying, through that lens, what does it come back to in your vision and mission? And if it doesn't touch those two, then you probably shouldn't be attached to it.
100%. Mark and I, who's on the call, we're working on our sales strategy. You know, we call it our alignment strategy at Godspeed. And even the shift in language is very indicative of who we are. You know, we call it an alignment strategy because we believe in relationships. We don't just look at it as sales. But we're working on that right now. And I can't tell you how many times in our process, you know, somebody would say something and we go, whoa, wait, but is that who we are? Do we need to align with those people because they have the money or the capacity or even the need in some cases? No, we should only be aligning with those who have the same or similar soul. You know, our best client relationships are the ones where we're basically working with ourselves. The people we're working with are very similar to us. They have the same core values. You know, ultimately they want to use their businesses or organizations to create, you know, beautiful experiences for their staff, for their clients, for the community. And they want to be profitable and make that money because they're responsible enough to have it. And, you know, in cases like, you know, in these, we definitely do need to anchor on this purpose at all times. Revisit that vision and mission daily, and you won't need to change it when it's deep.
Thanks, Dave. I have a question from somebody from our attendant, Jamie. Any advice for helping improving the atmosphere in a virtual working world? I find my team, specifically my supervisor, not engaged. I feel like often I'm the one who's excited and passionate, but then when others don't jump on board, I feel depleted.
That is a fantastic question. Your slightly technological question has a very non-technological answer. At the beginning of pandemic, I'll tell you what I did. So when it first hit and I had to send my team home, I said to myself, there's no way that this business can become a virtual business. It's almost as though, and this is why purpose is so darn important. Just because pandemic hits and now the only way that we can meet is using this tool, doesn't turn our business into the tool. The connections that you had with people in the office are still important. The reason why your supervisor is not engaged is because you're not engaged offline. What I did is I set up times, 30 minutes with each one of our staff every week to talk about things not related to business. So what we did during pandemic is we actually got closer than we were in the office before pandemic. You can ask anybody on our team, they're all around here. They could come in and tell you, that's what we did. We met and we spoke. Everything okay? What's going on? You know, how do you think that, you know, this is going to affect your life long term? What are some of the things that we can do in your life to make sure that you're not being affected negatively by this long term? Are you okay for money? All these things. We talked about all these things to the point where I have even a teammate who at one point prayed with me because they saw that I was stressed out about something. You know, so like these are the ways that you engage your people on the call more intimately and with more energy. You actually have to like them and get to know them. That's a human thing. Brands are individuals and not institutions. Throw technology in there too. Brands are not technology. It's only a vehicle. Whatever you have underneath the technology is what you'll have inside the technology. If it's good outside of the technology, it'll be great inside the technology. If it sucks outside of the technology, it'll suck inside of the technology too.
So are you suggesting, because she's not the manager, or he's not the, no, they're not the manager. So would you recommend that they do that anyway?
I say that they talk to their manager. So my advice to you would be, hey manager, can I talk to you on the phone? Or, you know, can we meet somewhere and chat? Because I'm feeling that the energy in our business calls is low. And maybe there's a disconnect. And maybe you can also say to the manager, you know what I think would really be good for our team is if we found ways to connect offline. And maybe it's like a secret Santa. You have a pile of names. You pick a name out of a hat. so to speak, you know, and that person's the person that you check up on. You check up on each other all the time for a week. And then you do the same thing on another week. Maybe, you know, use a word jumble on the internet that you can download for free, and you just put names in there. It's like a lottery almost. And you just that's who you're talking to this week. And it's up to you two to make the time to do that. And at some point we did that as well at Godspeed. I just said, listen, it's very important that you also engage each other. Don't just have the chats with me, but hey, Tisna, you need to say to Ashley, let's have our lunch together. And that's what we call them. We call them lunch meetings. So you have to have food. You have to use Zoom, or we use a platform called Whereby. You have to use Whereby, and you have to eat and talk. And a lot of people did that. They would literally eat their lunch and just chat. And that's what enables the meeting at 2:00 to be one with more energy, because you just connected, right? Very important. We are moving away from humanity, you know, and that's the most devastating part of this pandemic. It's the mask. Like people come into our studio and they wear a mask. If I saw them with their mask outside, I wouldn't even recognize them. And they were just in our studio for 6 hours, paying us money to use our space. I can't even see you. Sometimes I'm just like, look, pull down your mask so I know what you look like. You know, we need to infuse humanity back into business, and that'll help your challenge, Jamie.
I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
My camera's off today because I am off and I'm still in my PJs. So
Hey,
thanks.
power to you.
Yeah, the beauty about it. Do we have any other questions? Any other comments? Okay, well, listen, I just want to say thank you so much, Thomas, for doing this with us and for us. I think it was really inspiring, and I look forward to talking to you in the future about different things. See, you've got applause going on up there. Laura's
Awesome.
applause.
Thank you.
So thank you, everyone, for joining us again. Next week, we have Janet Sellery from Event Safety Alliance joining us, and look forward to talking to you all next week. Thanks, everyone, and soul purpose.
Yes.
Godspeed.
Lovely seeing you all.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.